was real people, because we're not replacing people with machines here, because you just can't. You can't do that with what we provide. Real food. And then we have a lot of marketing that goes under real food, which is the emphasis on the quality of our products, and real fast. Because we thought that is still an important component of this, that if people see that we're this wood-fired pizza cafe, whatever, people sit down. Because we don't look like a fast food place or a QSR, we don't want people to think that it's going to take a long time if they're in a hurry.
Welcome to The Bottom Line, the podcast that brings you real stories behind real restaurants. In each episode, we explore the decisions, systems, and stories behind the most successful restaurants out there in the market. No fluff, no hype. Just real operators, real challenges, and real advice from people who know how to get results. Let's get to the bottom line.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today in the Bottom Line podcast. Today's guest is the kind of entrepreneur who checks every box. The restaurant we'll be talking about started as a family business. The owner has great passion for the food they make. They brought a Neapolitan-style wood-fired pizza to their community 20 years ago, and their success reshaped the local food scene. What started as a single shop has grown into a thriving operation with 7 brick-and-mortar locations, many food trucks, and a passionate following. Today's guest is also an attorney, by the way. So he didn't stop at creating a very successful pizza brand, but he also launched a second brand, which is Moo Joe's. It's an ice cream brand that complements his original concept. And now he's doubling down on digital branding, working to tell his story and building a deeper connection with the communities that he serves. Today's guest is Ric Gruber Jr., and he's the driving force behind Billy Bricks and Moo Joe's. Thank you for joining me today, Ric.
Thanks for having me.
I watched many podcasts about you. You've done an amazing job telling your restaurant story. And Neapolitan pizza, 20 years ago, you brought it to Chicagoland, and in a city that's known for the deep dish pizza. The idea came from family vacation to San Diego, as I understand it. Your father started this business 20 years ago. What were the early challenges?
I think some of the earliest ones, or some people still have to this day. It's always the same thing. How you're going to pay for it, second mortgage on the house, those types of things to get started. And when you're coming up with something new and unique, that it's even harder for other people to understand how it's going to work, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you're creating something totally new and you're entering a hostile pizza environment with something really unique. So in that sense, anything that's going to start something new or bring something new to an area, in addition to it being a restaurant business, it's always challenging to get it going, getting people on board and with just the idea of doing it because of all the risk that's involved, financial and otherwise. But at the time, probably aside from those, because those aren't unique challenges, at that time, I think the most difficult challenge we had to overcome was actually getting the first oven here. So, now there are shops and companies all over the world and country that make these styles of ovens. And back then there just wasn't. So the biggest challenge that we had coming out of the gate was getting this unique style of cooking into our shop. So finding and sourcing that, having it built on site and getting someone to do that was certainly the biggest challenge, just like out of the gate. Everything else, challenging, but not unique.
When the first restaurant opened, how did you tell the story? How did you tell the story of this type of a new pizza? How did you bring people in? And we are talking about 20 years ago, by the way. I'm just curious, I lived in Detroit for 6 years. Detroit has its own style of pizza, by the way. That's the pan pizza, the rectangle pan pizza.
Know it very well.
Yeah, and I freaking love it. There's a great place in Dearborn, Michigan. I don't remember their name, but as far as I understand, Chicago, people of Chicago, they are kind of fanatic about their own the deep dish pizza. Would that be correct?
I think it's but I don't know. So if you're from here, that's really not your passion. It's something that we're very well known for, and it certainly is popular. But as pizza has become more a part of pop culture now, and I can't even explain what's happened with pizza as far as it's part of culture, and the spread of styles, it's everywhere now. And it's really cool to be in pizza. As people come to Chicago, that's what they know. That's what they know of it. Oh, there's a certain tourist aspect of it, something unique, and it doesn't get made anywhere else in that way. So it's one of the more unique things that we offer and we're known for with pizza. But if you're going into the average house on a Friday night, if they're not ordering Billy Bricks, the style of pizza that Chicago is really known for is our thin cut crust tavern pizza, which here we just call Chicago style, but that's the true Chicago style. But others will call it tavern.
I got you.
Which is the thin crust square cut pizza I grew up on before we started making this.
Your family introduces this new thing to the people of Chicago. How did you tell the story? How did you tell what sets this apart? Because as I listened to in a podcast, you guys have been forefront of in the quality department, right? Using Italian flour, which I don't know whether 20 years ago, how you were able to even, probably
we didn't right at the start, but we were using high quality flour, but our recipes and the ability to get higher quality ingredients of certain items has become easier over time. And we've made it a point to always do that. And if there's something better that's coming in, that we switch. We're not unwilling to switch if it means more quality, even if it has a higher price. So you have to be willing to do that as things become available, because otherwise others will open up and they'll choose to use the higher quality. So I'd rather let other people open up and have them try to save their money and make an inferior product than, look down the road and say we can get by with what we've been doing. So you don't cut corners when it comes to your ingredients.
You guys have been featured in all of the major pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, this is quite remarkable. Could you talk to us about the journey to get here? And do you want to talk about some of these awards?
Yeah. So, I think the biggest change for us, yes, we've worked really hard to get our numbers to where they need to be to qualify or be considered to be a top brand, not just to have a lot of units. But, looking a few years back at applying for some of those awards, it was eye-opening in the sense of this is what they're looking for. These are the things that help you win these things. We should be working on them anyway. So it kind of gave us a target of, okay, these are the numbers we need to improve this and that. And a larger part of it is when they're considering brands to watch, it's not just your growth, your eye on growth, but also your tight your numbers are and, your sales, how your sales look. And then in addition to that, they do look a lot at your numbers with marketing and social media, because that's a big part of does this brand have legs? Can it grow? Is how much they do on that. And I think we've done just as good of a job as anybody, especially in pizza. I mean, there are some people out there that are really they've hit something, or when they were doing it, it was right on time with COVID, and they got massive followings, way bigger than ours. But if you're checking off the boxes of what you need to be doing, we're doing all of them. I think we're doing most of them pretty well, and things have steadily grown from there. So it definitely makes us somebody to follow as far as that goes too. We're not just someone to order from. We are someone to watch for other reasons. So, I think those things all combined, and we put a lot of emphasis and resources behind growing those parts of our business and a lot of that comes with people and processes. So, it wasn't free. And then even just the traffic that we drive to our websites is astonishing. When some of those publications put out their reports of the stats that come in from the major chains, the major franchise chains like a Domino's, what we are able to do per unit is with our marketing or our traffic is basically on par with any of them. And then as far as independents go, we're blowing them all out of the water when it comes to driving millions of views to our website. So
and how are you achieving that?
There's no silver bullet to tell you we do paid SEO or we're doing this or we're CPC. We're not or what is it? PPC. We're not doing any of that. It's all organic. Now, there are things obviously that are best practices with, like you said, you go to our website, we have a lot of pages. We have even ones that we don't put in the main header, but we got a lot of pages with a lot of good content, a lot of SEO. We're getting a lot of organic backlinks with the stuff that we're doing out there, whether those be local publications, national publications, podcasts like this one that create backlinks with content out there, driving people over to see what's going on here and looking at all this stuff. Now starting to embed some of these things like that right there, our YouTube videos, our shorts on describing parts of our menu. All those things kind of being put in there, in addition to like the Google My Business profiles being updated with how, Google is now including organic social as part of SEO. There's all those things kind of coming together. And I think it's just staying on top of, what you can do that are best practices in organic. Because I've always pushed that, even as an agency in my prior career. I would tell people you can get a long way with creativity and not a whole lot of spend, because there's just always something that's out there dominating a platform, folk going all in on a platform and integrating those things and figuring out how to distribute those. I feel like now it's easier than ever to, like, with the technology that's out there and stuff, to get your story told and get things out there. And in the beginning, it was all very traditional because there was nothing like this available. It was the story being on the menu cards, the story being included on the pizza boxes, telling the story when people would come in, and then trying to get as much, earned media as possible. And at that time, the earned media really I think it carried a lot more weight than it does sometimes now, because that's how you primarily received information then, was in your mailbox or on your TV or radio. And so we were able to get a lot of earned media at that time because what was happening was at our shop and what we were offering was really unique to the area. So we got a lot of nice local coverage early on.
That's awesome. Thanks for telling us about what was the inspiration behind the menu. And what's your favorite menu item from here?
So if you're going to ask me my favorite item, it's probably going to go by each vertical of the menu, because we have a pretty big menu.
Yeah.
The idea in the original name was Brick's Wood-Fired Pizza Cafe, and Cafe. And the whole feeling that we wanted was, and Bill would always say this, is like, he wanted it to be like Cheers, where everybody knows your name. He wanted it to be the cafe environment where you would come in and feel relaxed and you wouldn't feel like this was a fast food place, but it was a casual environment. So, once you order at our counter, it becomes a full service restaurant, but it's fast. It's really fast. And I think that was the most important thing.
Because the pizza comes out in 2 to 3 minutes, right?
Yes.
From the oven.
So as far as the menu goes, the cafe and atmosphere, pizza is generally a thing. If you look at a lot of pizzerias around the country, and even around here, they'll have like Mondays off, and a lot aren't open for lunch. On the East Coast, you'll see more open for lunch because they offer slices. And in a few other places, you'll see like they'll have a couple heroes, which is what you call them on the East Coast.
Yeah. A
couple heroes and slices. So they're open. But around here, pizzerias are generally not open at lunch because they didn't offer anything for that. So Bill wanted to change that, and he really wanted to have terrific salads and sandwiches as well to go along with it, so that it would build up a nice lunch business and then be able to do the pizza, focus more pizza at night. And that's kind of how it started, and that's really what we've stuck with. And I think it's been a big differentiator for us versus a lot of other people in the same market, or competitors, or people who have taken on similar models around the country. Now, I don't know if one way is better than the other, because I'm sure for them, their overhead to start, it's much more simple for them to train and focus on their menu and how to, operationally get going with growing faster. So there's always that battle between scalability and artisanship. And so, I don't know which one is better. I think our growth has been slower because of the artisanship that we still, exhibit and require to do what we do. And I don't think that it makes sense to ever take that out of it, because it takes what's special out of it, even if that means growth, or faster growth. I think there will be a time where we figure out how to scale that faster, but that would take more significant infrastructure and investment in, more training facilities, programs, people to just do training. So it would have to coincide with a real investment to say, hey, we're going to open 10 stores this year. So as part of that investment, we're going to open up this facility and hire these people specifically just to train for those. You can't do it and say, oh, we're going to open up one this year, and then maybe we'll open up one next year, and then one like that. and then still support that staff to be able to do that the right way, because the training for this is not simple. I should say it's simple. It's not easy.
Because it's not just one thing. It's multiple. It's multiple things. Because it's a cafe, right? At the end of it, it's not just a pizzeria.
Correct.
And this being the menu, you have appetizer, there's meatballs, dips, bruschettas, pizzas, of course.
And we do everything in the one oven, in the wood-fired oven.
Very impressive. The pastas, salads, and sandwiches, and desserts also. So it's a big menu. It's a big menu, but I guess that gives everyone an option, right? You are open longer hours thanks to this. Yes, it's harder to train the folks, but just like you said, when you find these strategies that will speed up the training process, it's it already paid off. You guys have 7 physical locations and 7 food trucks, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes. So I think what we do very efficiently, and we do it really well, but it's just hard to do that fast. So, I think that would be the next part is, do we want to do it fast, or do we want to do what we've been doing and keep growing over time? Because, a lot of the places that are bigger or faster now, when you actually take a look at it, it took a long time before they started growing at that speed. So it feels faster because you're looking at it in, with hindsight. But, some of these places have taken 30 or 40 years before they really start growing like that, with all those things figured out. And others grow really, really fast, and then they also contract really, really fast. And I've seen a lot of that where there's a brand with legs, they get a big outside investment, they grow super fast, and it looks really exciting. But, you look at most of these franchisees, and they'll have, leases on these buildings, and it will be however long that lease is, and then that's when they close. So it looks really good for 4 or 5 years. And then after that, you'll start seeing, we opened up 200 restaurants, and then, we're down to 60.
Yeah, I think what happens is, so I worked in so many different industries, one of which was automotive. I've been to more than 25 manufacturing plants of some of the largest companies out there in the world. And when I talk about axle, I've been to the plant in Kentucky that makes in the car in front of us, or the stabilizer bar, or what have you. Nobody cares other than me, I freaking love heavy duty manufacturing, but nobody else cares. But restaurants are different. When I was the operator for a super high end steakhouse group, princes of Saudi Arabia were trying to get in the opening night in, say, Beverly Hills. Everybody's trying to be my best buddies. So it's very different. One is a multi-billion-dollar company that nobody cares about. The CEO, like the owner of Tata in India. If I told you this is the CEO of Tata, who cares? Yeah, okay, he has $100 billion. Fine. Good for him. But one is a celebrity chef or something. Now everybody's leaving everything aside and paying attention to that guy. Yeah. Restaurants have that kind of a pool for investments, and investor comes in and they give, here you go, $1 million, open up, 8 locations. And that's what they do. Without, I think, systems, processes, without really understanding what it means. They are just looking at money. There are several examples here in Miami. They are looking at, if I made $10 million from 4 restaurants, if I open 8 more, I'm going to make so much money. So I'm going to open them. But without systems, processes, every single, as you and me both know, anything and everything that can go wrong in a restaurant does go wrong, right? And like the more restaurants you have, the bigger of the more fire drills you are going to have. And then suddenly the quality in everything is going to suffer, because to the most part, a restaurant without systems, processes, like GMs and all the managers and the employees who are basically like glued together, everybody knows what they are supposed to do. Like when something happens, there is a playbook. If these conditions aren't met, then every single new thing that comes along is going to be pushed towards the owner. chicken is out. The distributor said they don't have chicken. Suddenly, you're on the phone trying to bring in the stuff. There's like a big festival or something. You're trying to not have that problem.
Yeah, I think the big thing is, and this probably goes for anyone or for any business, is you got to decide what type of business you're building. With restaurants, it's very easy to open a restaurant and build yourself a job. It's really different if you're trying to build yourself a business, a real business, and a lifestyle. And I say lifestyle not to be relaxing, but what is it that you're trying to do income wise? What is it that you're trying to do time commitment wise? How well do you delegate the stress to a team that you've built that can handle the things? Because it is, when you're at the top of the business, it's kind of silly to point fingers or complain because you're in charge. So if you don't like something, then you figure out how to not make that happen anymore. So anything that's ever driving me crazy, I only have myself to blame. So my feelings are still valid or frustrating, but I go, well, okay, dummy, you need to get over it and figure out how to not have that happen anymore. Like if I don't like doing something or don't want to be, it's taking away from the business because I'm spending too much time putting out this type of fire. I need to figure out who internally is the person that's responsible for putting those fires out now, or create a position or bring in a person that is going to take care of certain things that frees me up to do things like this. And to really strategically think, grow the brand. But, I will tell you, today is the first day in the last 2 weeks where I feel some real relief after a lot of fire extinguishing. I feel like Smokey the Bear.
Smokey the Bear.
And it's not minor stuff like the knob fell off this or this cooler's not working right. We had some major stuff that was going to create some serious cash expenditures, some of which were unexpected. And I think that's also one of the reasons why you do scale is that, we have a potential mechanical issue at a restaurant that's going to cost us a significant investment to fix. And it's one of our better restaurants. So it's like, how do you not?
Is it the hood?
No. We don't really have hoods because we just had the wood fire and direct flue.
Gotcha.
But it's, not completely unsexy, the HVAC.
Yeah.
Not fun at all. Not like, hey, let's put in new patio windows. We'll spend all this money because it's going to make the place so much greater. No, this is something that nobody's going to care about other than the people having a miserable experience because it's not there. It's one of those things. If it's there, you take it for granted. If it's not there, you notice it right away. So, we're trying to figure out how to do that. And I go, this one decision could wipe away our profit for the entire year for what we do there. If you only had that restaurant, can you afford to make no money for an entire year and work like we have to work? That's the reality of having a single unit is that things will happen. And then, nobody should have to live that way. And you shouldn't have to work the hours that you do as an operator doing what we do and have it all wiped away in one decision or one issue that comes up. And so I think you insulate yourself from that type of financial ruin by having the additional, liabilities out there. And those, there's different assets out there working and creating income for you because if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And, shit happens. So,
Shit happens.
And I think the longer I go in this thing, the more my tolerance for that comes up. Has grown. And I think that's one of the hardest things to develop without just experience. I don't know if anyone's just cut out for that, like right out of the gate. I'm sure there are some people who have no issue with it, but man, that's definitely been one of my personal biggest challenges is taking that on. And I hate spending money. Especially on stuff that, you're just like, really?
Is this adding to the customer experience necessarily?
Exactly where I'm like, man, we're trying to build and that money was going to go to, we had plans for this additional unit or this additional shop or raises or new benefits we want to offer. Yep. And now what do we do with that line item that nobody was expecting? So you build in for that. You say, you put away for the rainy day. You don't always spend all your money. You don't drain accounts. There's people who do that too. So you have to be very fiscally conservative so you can have what you need when you need it to handle those types of things, knowing that they're going to happen. And I think having the multi-unit operation, yes, it creates the opportunity for more of those things to arise, but it also protects you when you can say, okay, I've had 2 stores this year that have had unexpected, massive problems. And so we made next to nothing there this year. and we know whatever, it's going to bounce back next year when we don't have that on the books. My other 5 are making us money. And so we are where we usually are because we can plan for, hey, 1 to 2 places is going to have a problem every year.
That's
Something's
right.
going to happen. And then
It's almost like a hedging
correct.
your bets.
Correct. And that's how I see it and I think if you look at like my background, I think I have that sort of mentality or mindset only because I come from a different place where in a different training where I've seen this in very different types of business. Yeah. And I see this in very different types of businesses, and this is how it works. So I go, it's like natural law. The laws always apply. It doesn't matter if you're making widgets or if you're selling pizza. There are certain things and principles that are always in place for good business, for good finance, for good everything. And I think that's the one piece in the restaurant business that is often missing for people. And then the flip side of that is when they bring in the people who do have that knowledge or experience that bring in the money, they have a very different agenda, a very different set of priorities, and don't have necessarily the restaurant experience or the passion for the restaurant. They just want to, make it into a chop shop and make as much money as fast as they can. And by doing that, you take the heart and soul out of a restaurant. And the problem with that is this isn't just selling something for utility. Restaurants are largely selling experience. And so if you take out that part of it, the passion and the heart, all you're doing is selling a commodity. And if that's what the game you're in, it's a hard one because commodity is always fighting on price and price alone. So you're always fighting against yourself. You can't just, these guys that are the way that they operate out there, those larger chains that have really bad food.
That's right.
Money is they fight like a commodity. That's it. They're just who can go the lowest on their price and still make money on volume, and that's it. And
think about Pizza Hut. Think about Pizza Hut. Up until when they started in like 1950s, and I'm really angry at them. I'm really super angry because growing up, I love Pizza Hut. I love the pan pizza, and in the 90s. So I'm from Turkey. When they first opened, beginning of 90s, when they first opened in Turkey, they were actually an upscale brand, if you can believe it.
They were here too. They had full dining rooms. They had those really cool stained glass, I think that's what you would call them. They're more like a stained glass lights over all the tables. They had a salad bar, the salad buffet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you would go. And they also did stuff like if you got an A on your test, you came in and you got free pizza. Like it was engaging in the community. Like that was a place that you would go and have Friday night pizza night was at their restaurants. And what they did, tried to compete with people who came in like Domino's who weren't going to be that. And they were just a commodity, and they tried to they tried to play down to compete with them because they were taking market share instead of saying, we're just going to stay elevated and elevate even further. So we're differentiated. And instead they went the cheap route and tried to make everything less expensive. And then, no one's going to pay a premium on a low quality product in that environment. And so, I mean, hindsight, like I'm sure when you're sitting in that room at that time, that decision probably made sense. It's at least where it was like a coin toss of we do this or we do this, and they chose this and it just didn't work. Well, yeah, no, that was a huge cultural shift, right, for those pizzerias. And I think most pizzerias went to the commodity business, and pizzerias were not places where you went to go sit down and have a meal. And then in Illinois, if you were a pizzeria, it was usually carryout or delivery, and that was it. There were these little hole-in-the-wall places, or the only other place you would get pizza is at like Italian restaurants where they also served pizza.
Yeah. I gotcha.
It was an Italian place, red and white checkered tablecloth. But you could get pizza, but really it was an Italian restaurant. And so, to me, there's outside of New York where you had the pizza shop, where you had slice shops. That's pretty much the experience that I've noticed all around the country for pizza. And I think now it's become a huge shift in the experience. Now, there's still a lot of big players that are doing what they've always done in pizza, but it's a lot more independent focus now, local shop owners with dining experience that, really sets you apart from a lot of other places. And that experience varies greatly for different places. I mean, I don't think there's a more diverse vertical of food than pizza as far as the style.
I 100% agree.
You can get it, where you can get it, how the place it's in offers it. I mean, it's very, 100%. Very unique.
So I think I'm mad at basically two groups of people. One is people who don't care what they eat. I work with a lot of burger and fried chicken places as well. In my consulting business, I ran a upscale burger business as well, and I can't believe people are okay with eating like frozen patty burgers, for example. And the equivalent of that on the pizza. Is there anything that these folks won't be eating? So frozen patty burger is $. A real burger is 15. Why do you not taste the difference? And then the restaurateurs who basically, like what Pizza Hut has done, is it really cheese or cheese product? Cheese, what is it? Dough is frozen. Why are they in the business? Or why are these people eating the product? And why are these people serving that product? Why? And the difference is $3 in between?
I think the real difference has been consumer education. I think now hopefully we see a bigger, it's definitely not a majority, but there is a movement of more people on both sides of, I guess in the United States, we have to say this, on both sides of the aisle, because a lot of things, how health becomes political is crazy to me. Like if it's health related, it doesn't matter who you vote for. If it's not good if it's causing you cancer or giving you diabetes, like it's bad for everybody. So the fact that we can't agree on some of those things right now is kind of silly. And, the American left was basically in charge of health and health purity. It was a lot of the organic stuff and non-GMOs and whatever. And now the American right is kind of doing that, where there's been a lot more people going like, this is crazy. COVID was a big cultural shift as far as how people think about what they're putting in their body. And people talk about it a lot now. So I think now we're getting more of a critical mass on both sides, where now you can say a majority of Americans are really starting to think about it and what they do. Because you're exactly right. It was like you would go to McDonald's and you knew it was terrible for you, but you're like, listen, and it wasn't always that way. But you're like, I know it's bad for me, but it's really cheap and it's really fast. Well, now
quarter pounder is fresh. Quarter pounder,
but now,
I can get.
But now there's no experience, it's not fast, and it's not cheap.
No.
And it's not good for you. So
that's exactly my point. What's the point in going to a restaurant and eating a $12 frozen patty burger? Make it at home, make it at home. $4 is going to be like $3 will be the cost to you. Like, why would you even eat a frozen patty burger?
I think things like this, these podcasts, the internet, social media is all things that are helping get this type of conversation going with people, where they go, yeah, I guess that is true. Because before it would be the big players that control the narrative completely, because they're the ones with all the money for marketing. But independents can now compete because of social media with getting word out there of like, hey, and I'd say a really good example is my buddy who owns Fry the Coop. He's been doing all beef tallow frying from the very beginning when he started in 2017. So that was not popular then. But his idea was, when he started, I wanted to make the original 57 recipe, McDonald's recipe of the fries, because they had the best fries until they mucked it up. And so he wanted to figure out what that was, and they used beef tallow. So he researched that and was like, why wouldn't I use this? So he's always been beating that drum about, we use 100% beef tallow, 100% beef tallow, no seed oils. He couldn't get that message of why that matters, or even let people know that was happening, unless they were standing right in front of him there and he was telling every single person, like you can today. And so
I 100% agree with you. Yeah.
Now, what was it, Five Guys? Was it Five Guys or Steak and Shake or one of those bigger brands out there, national franchises, sat down with Bobby Kennedy and said, we're going beef tallow. Going, 6 years ago, that was unthinkable that anyone would be just offering to do that. And why? Who knows? But, that's beyond me. But it's just funny to see a friend of mine for the last 7 years beat this drum about this and get a lot of people that go to him because they understood and appreciated that. And it didn't change the price for his product at all. So I think that's part of it, right? Is being able to have things like this available, information out there, so that even a proprietor can make the decision knowing the difference, because that wouldn't readily be known by your average person. Making that decision and having options to be able to purchase it and get it in. And then 3, having a distribution channel to actually explain that. And I think that was, so when we, like every few years or so, we come up with a new campaign to go whatever where our focus is right now. A few years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I can't even remember, our big focus was wood-fired, family-inspired. And we wanted everyone to remember that, number 1, we cook everything in a wood-fired oven. And number 2, that this is a family business. Despite how big we were growing, we didn't want people to go, oh, is this a franchise? Is this this? Is this that? And I said, no. this is very much still my whole family arguing with each other every day. Like this is a family business, and a lot of family works here. This is not some big conglomerate. We're not backed by, all this money. Like this is a family shop, even though we have more than one place. So we thought that was really important for people to know while we were in that growth phase of like, this isn't McDonald's. This isn't that. So even if your goal was like to sue us for something, you're not going to get it because there ain't nothing to get. Yep. Like we're not that company. You're not going to get 15 million because your coffee was too hot here.
That's right.
We don't have it. So, that was a real big focus for us. And then the past year and a half, our tagline on all of our shirts and that we put up in the stores is real because of the change in the tides too. We're like, we want to emphasize these things. To be fair, we started putting this up for people who were talking about it again. So we were kind of happy about that. There's real people because we're not replacing people with machines here because you just can't. You can't do that with what we provide. Real food. And then we have a lot of marketing that goes under real food, which is the emphasis on the quality of our products and real fast. Because we thought that is still an important component of this, that if people see that we're this wood-fired pizza cafe, whatever, people sit down. Because we don't look like a fast food place or a QSR, we don't want people to think that it's going to take a long time if they're in a hurry. Because it doesn't have to. You can come in and stay as long as you'd like, but they have to know that they will have their full meal cooked fresh in front of them, and they'll be ordered out the door in under 10 minutes. I mean, we are significantly faster. If you ordered 2 pizzas, 2 salads, 2 sandwiches, and a pasta, we'd have you out of here faster than you'd get one order done at Five Guys.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
That was a real important part of us and reminding, and then you try to tie that into the training materials you have internally. Hey guys, let's not forget, just because we're reopened for business internally because COVID's over and we are used to having these long times on curbside because they got to get here plus delivery. Those days of 20, 30 minute ticket times are over. We're back to business where if somebody's in here, dine in and carry out priority over pickup and delivery. And that has to be under 10 minutes. And it's very easy to accomplish as long as you know those priorities because of how hot our ovens are. So, doing that I think was a get back to basics tagline for us of this is what we're emphasizing.
I love it. I post all the time on LinkedIn. I write a lot about this stuff, back to basics. Is there any area for improvement in the operations in terms of systems, processes in these podcasts to basically thank for our guests' time? They usually ask me a question, and if it's in my purview to.
So here's the start of my list, and then if you're just how far down can I roll that? Can I roll it out? I think if you're really good at what we do in this business, the answer to always is that there's a lot.
There's a lot.
You don't want, to me, I don't like to overdo it because I say we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. We'll have this whole list of issues. We'll figure out potential solutions, and then we prioritize which ones we're going to take action on based on, can this one get done in a week? Which one is a month? Which one is going to be 3 months? And you have to prioritize that way. Otherwise, it's overwhelming for any team. So I think having that and realistic expectations on timelines to get stuff done requires patience from leadership to say we're looking for long-term improvements and, so having short-term thinking doesn't really help your team. It just puts stress because you can only do so much. And guess what? If we have a project timeline and then all of a sudden we have a major fire to put out, well, that's going to take precedent for a couple of days and it sets you a little bit back. But it's like, well, what is the alternative? That we have 10 more people here. So that way, anytime something that we can't expect comes up, we don't get off track by a couple of days. And guess what? Nobody's keeping score of how fast we got some change done that nobody else cared about, So it's having those type of priorities or mentality around it and knowing that we are always trying to be our best. We are always willing to improve and innovate. We are always moving the ball forward but not reinventing the wheel on everything. Some stuff just works. So you can leave it alone. There's other stuff where we've now, if you talk to Sean and know Sean, obviously everything about Ovation and using that survey app. We started putting that in place, and I have been blown away by the feedback we've gotten from guests. Mostly positive, some negative, and some really, really helpful, where it's just alerting us to stuff that is probably falling through the cracks. And it's like, okay, this is a re-emphasis here on training. And it's, again, not a huge failure of a system. It's like we have the whole system, but clearly the checklist isn't being followed, because if it was, we wouldn't be getting this feedback regularly. So we have the system in place. but we needed the checks and balances to be able to enforce it, or at least get the feedback to know that something wasn't, our standards set, the system's in place, but if someone's not following that it's worth nothing. So having that to hear that, 3 days in a row, something was missing from a bathroom that should have been there when the guests went to go use it. And they politely just letting us know, oh, hey, this one's really low on hand towels, or that one's out of soap. Like, not a huge deal. It's not like they're not going to come back for that, but it's also a big deal.
Yeah, because it's part of the checklist.
And it's part of the customer's overall experience, and we shouldn't be being told. So if somebody's checking it off every day that they check the bathroom and those things are missing, I go, what were you checking exactly? So maybe we need to re-emphasize the silliness of do a 10-minute training of what's important in the bathroom. So, it's little stuff like that. And again, I wasn't looking to find something like Ovation, but it was a solution that people that I really respect that are running really good restaurants have in place and say has been great for them. So, those are peer recommendations and not something I saw online. Like, these are my just buddies just telling me like, oh no, we use this. It's great. And it has been great. So, finding tools to make those things simpler and being able to monitor more remotely is hugely important in today's world.
That's right.
Especially if you have more than one unit. And if you want to have more than one unit, you have to have this type of stuff because you're not going to be able to get everywhere every day. And you don't want to. I like that I can run my restaurant for a week when I'm not if I'm in Florida.
At the same time, think of there's back of house, front of the house. You have 7 units and 7 food trucks, 14, right?
Uh-huh.
So the restaurants have back of house, front of the house. So 14 facades, 7 food trucks, say maybe 3 of them are running all the time. You have 17 facades that you need to be, and also the paper world, the world that,
Correct.
Invoices are paid, payroll is done, people are, time clocking in and out.
Yeah. So I
compliance.
I saw a lot of those things as becoming very overwhelming for us as we continued to grow. And my dad was a little more old school, not because he was resistant, because he definitely was open to implementing changes and technology. I think some of it was just a little fear on his part of, hey, if I'm the one who's in charge of this, I might have a little issue because I'm older. I think there was a fear of it in the sense of, I hope I don't screw it up if I'm having to operate it. But he definitely wasn't resistant to its implementation for any other reason other than potentially that. But he's really been open to adapting it and adopting these things. And I think that has been a huge relief for us. So we also use MarginEdge.
Yeah.
And that
I love MarginEdge. I had a podcast with their people. I love it.
Yeah, and I know we don't use it to its full potential, but we use a ton of what they have. But the biggest thing for us was the remote accounting stuff. Yes, for our menu, recipes, costing, and food, like all that type of stuff. Something that used to take me 6 to 8 weeks at the end of every quarter or year when we would look at product mix and all that. I mean, we couldn't do it as frequently as we should because of how much time it took to do everything manually. So now the fact that like my operations team, I was sitting there with a guy and we're laughing. We're like, hey, we got to run some numbers on this stuff. And he literally hit a button and it all printed. And we're like, my God, remember how we used to have to do this? So,
I know,
the speed to lead and the speed to be able to change those things is incredible. That information getting flagged when a product goes up, down, all that kind of stuff. So we can reach out and go, hey, what's going on with this to one of our vendors? And then we'll actually get the information we need and know it's temporary or it's permanent or this is not coming anymore. You just flag to more things quicker. And on top of it, our accounting team works remotely. And so we were having to manually collect paperwork, run it around, drop it off at their office. It was putting them behind too because they were waiting on us. And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm not going to continue this. I know this is how we were doing it and he liked to do that. I'm not going to be responsible for that because that's going to cause me a lot of stress every week to make me like, oh crap, I got to go pick up these invoices. Otherwise the accounting doesn't get done. When we've had, I don't call them problems, we call them issues. Like when we've had that type of issue and I go, this is going to keep being an issue.
Unless
we need to do some old-fashioned research to figure out how to create a system, and in that system, what type of technological solution there is to do it. We were just talking about phones for our sales team and catering and mobile team. We have a third party that we use called Sideline, but they got rid of their enterprise solution, so we can't have multiple phone numbers or multiple team members use it. And that was really frustrating. So I'm like, okay, here's my criteria. Here's all the things that I need. This is what we need it for. Here's all my check boxes. And I need to be able to port the number to this new solution because I don't want to lose the number that everyone's calling and all this material's out there. And I put it into ChatGPT and it gave me like a full report, a rundown. It gave me a grid with pluses and minuses, pros, cons, pricing, all the things, and it said, and I also asked it, and I said, don't stand on the fence. I want a real recommendation and you need to tell me what to do. And it said, our recommendation for you is to pick this one. It's the best fit and here's why. And I go, it's incredible. So, again, that is something that 20 years ago, thinking about using something like ChatGPT to help you.
4 years ago.
Well,
3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago.
You got to take it. 20 years ago, there wasn't even a smartphone.
Yeah.
So to plan your business for things like this, and 20 years in relative to time is a very small period of time. It feels like it's been a long time, but it is a short in the span of any part of history. If you think about it, it's a relatively short period. And what's happened from then till now, if you think the business you started is the one you're going to be running next year or the year after that, the way that the speed of which innovation is able to happen now with technology,
people will surpass
that you don't have to do anything differently from year to year, month to month, couple years. That is, I think, the most challenging part of today is the speed at which there's innovating, because new people coming in, barriers to entry are lower than ever. So you have a lot of competition. And as they come in, they're adapting or adopting the newest thing and the newest everything because they're starting fresh. So if you're letting them come in and do everything the right way for today, and you're stuck in yesterday, you're going to start falling behind over time. And I think that's where you've seen some of the smaller chains, like out of Illinois, that have been really popular, that have 30, 40, 50 units, struggle because they've been slow to adapt or adopt these other things, probably because of the money and the infrastructure and whatever. Domino's, they're not a pizza company. They're a technology company.
That's right. Delivery is there.
They have the best app and they have the best back-end technology system ever. Like there's just, if I could give that experience to my customers and guarantee it, they're a logistics company and they're a technology company. Like the pizza is just like an afterthought, obviously, because it sucks. But they do the best at getting it to you in exactly the way that they promised. So, it depends on the way that you look at it. And so I would say today, that's probably the speed at which stuff is changing and adopts and is out, launched. And, now YouTube is doing this with their algorithm. They're not doing that. And then Google's playing this game. You have to be full time. And that's what I love that stuff. So for me, I enjoy doing that. That's my background and where I come from.
Improvements, huh?
Yeah. And so that's as an attorney and as a former creative, I guess I'm always creative, but as career wise, solving those problems, researching, coming up with solutions, implementing them. I really enjoy that stuff. That's the part of the job, other than making pizza. This is the part of the job I enjoy the most as far as professionally.
From an entrepreneurship standpoint, one of the things that resonated with me, that what you said is, we don't bite more than we can chew. Because you have pushed a lot of different things in the last few years. One is, franchising many food trucks, Moo Joe's, the ice cream brand, and now the digital advertisement. Each of which has unique execution challenges. And given that, you don't have you're not like Kanye West or like Jay-Z or somebody who has like a big team of
no, I certainly don't have the teams. I have the equal amounts ADD and crazy though. So at times, even I don't have those types of teams. I work that way though. That's how I work. I mean, I am pretty high energy, pretty high focus, obsessive almost over some ideas, will them into existence and happen. I have that engine, and that's a big part of my personal fulfillment in life.
Making things happen.
Making things come from nothing. And making things happen. That's what I enjoy. To me, I don't see that as if somebody outside go, man, this dude's got a lot going on. This must be blah, blah, blah. I don't look at it that way. I mean, I know that that's what happens, but I say, hey, not every idea is going to work. So if you do them all one at a time, it's going to really slow down finding which ones do work. So when you're looking at those things, I go, okay, nothing's ever going to, and this was one part. We had a team member who was pretty high performer, but really just did not get on board with this philosophy. So he had to leave the team. But it was, everything's not going to be perfect. And if you wait for the perfect moment, the perfect everything in order to launch something, it's never going to launch. So to me, if we have an idea almost all the way there of what we're thinking, I'm more inclined to say there's certain things that are non-negotiables, have to be done correctly to a certain standard, to a certain, how we want to do something. But at the end of the day, get it going and see if anyone even cares before you invest all this other time and money.
That's right.
Because you might do all this stuff and the market might tell you, we don't want it.
Yep. Or the market can change by the time you do. That's what the Germans have found out. Like for all their smarts in engineering, like they suck at tech business because like by the time they launch this like 100% product, the market either doesn't exist anymore or has been fulfilled by companies who do the 80-20 rule.
And we used to laugh about that too, like because we would do patents, and then obviously there were court cases that said like you couldn't get software patents, but you still can, but they're not the same as if you get like mechanical patents. But they limited the scope of copyright and patents for software. And part of the reasoning was just a simple one from the court standpoint of by the time you go through all of this, that code's already probably outdated. Like whatever you created, it's like now the process and the expense of getting a patent. By the time you get it, you probably already changed it a lot.
That's right.
Because otherwise your code is way outdated and it sucks. So, to spend all that time, money, and energy to go out and do that. So like it was more the patent process for softwares of like what it actually accomplishes rather than the code itself. And that code itself is really just copyright protected because that's created common law. By just creating it, you have a right to it. And that instead of registering it, because it's like, yeah, you're registering something that you're updating and changing all the time. And so I see that where it's like, because I come from that world, I'm like, don't slow down. Just keep going and worry about that stuff later. And don't worry about, someone's going to steal this or someone's going to take that or something.
If they're going to steal, they're going to steal.
Yeah, exactly. By the time they catch on, we're already going to be so far ahead if it's working that they're always a step behind.
Also, the storytelling part, that's what sets you apart, doesn't it? Like you put that new thing, let's say like Moo Joe's, and you told the story, you made that brand special. Even if your competitor down the street copies the ice cream brand and they buy a food truck to go with it, and they have the pizza truck and the food truck, all of those, to be a competition to you for the catering events. You are different because your business has you telling the story that needs to be told.
They're telling the story and making a unique experience out of those things that most people, if they did understand it, they would have already done it. And so when someone goes, why did you spend that much on an ice cream truck? Because ice cream trucks are a dime a dozen. Why would you spend $100,000 to build an ice cream truck? Because I have the coolest one you've ever seen. And that's the point, is because you can spend it, you're either spending it there or you're spending it somewhere else. So we don't have to spend money on the advertising because it markets itself when you see how cool it is. Because we have one of one truck. Nobody else has this vehicle. And when we pull up, it's a story people can tell. It's a picture they want to take. It's an experience that's one of a kind.
Yeah.
And not only are we telling you, but then it helps our salespeople too, as they're trying to explain to people and they go, oh, you have to have it. It makes it easy for them. They believe it 100% when they say that. It's not salesmanship. They're just telling them the truth. What we're going to provide your guests at your event is going to be something they're going to be talking about for a long time.
I'm going to show you this. By the way,
the hard part was taking that mentality that we took to mobile, that we really mastered with mobile and how to do that, and taking and putting that back into the shops where it started, because we got a little away from that we got a little on our heels, right? Because we've been around for a long time. It's okay. How do we take that same approach and that same mentality into creating a one of a kind experience when someone walks into one of our restaurants as well?
I want to show you this. So this is a expensive as hell build that we opened this restaurant a few years ago. So this is a $2 million. No, 2 million. I don't remember. This whole thing was $15 million built. This light column, I guess I picked the wrong picture. Yeah, light column. Do you see this?
Uh-huh.
This is basically 3-story LED light column that goes, and there is top of it. And the bar is the first thing that greets you. Easy stuff happens in this bar. Just you said, you need to create something of a unique experience. People come in. There's 75 people at the bar. There's a DJ. The lights show from this. This is a restaurant I opened in Vegas. I built and the operation team opened. That was part of my responsibility at the time. Let me show you this I think somewhat sums it up. We opened it at 2022. Okay, there we go. Go away. Advertisement, go away. All right. Okay. I think you get the gist. So, I think these unique experiences are what sets
Yeah,
our
here,
industry.
if you click on that, click on the Moo Joes that you got up top there. The
Which one?
tab, the Moo Joes.
Yeah, here. Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to the gallery, there's a gallery at the top,
Yeah.
and you see this. You go, who else is doing this? Who else has an ice cream parlor that they bring to you inside
Jeez.
of a 1958
There we go.
Ford F-350? Look at that experience. So yes, you can go and play someplace and serve pretty good ice cream to somebody. But look at that. Everyone sees that pull up and they're like, what is this?
100%.
This is a whole experience. Look at that.
There we go.
How cool is that? That's actually me inside of there.
Yeah. And you love this stuff.
I do love it because it's just like you're seeing it on people's face. When someone says, "Oh, I think we need another one," and they want to motivate me to spend all the money to build another one, and I got to go out, right? I got to be in there, and I'm like, okay, people do love this. Like this, I can see this. You can feel that you've done something right. And then there's one of our pizza trucks behind the ice cream truck too.
This is some truck though.
Yeah. And that one,
Jeez.
that one's our least visible one, even though it's all glass. The way
Yeah.
that we did split those windows, we would never do again. But we have one that are all glass panels, top to bottom, side to side. There's Bill, loving it. He's an ice cream freak. So this was he loved this whole deal with the ice cream.
I'm sure he's superbly proud of you.
Yeah, he is. He is. Look at that. Who doesn't like ice cream? And the real idea of it, obviously it's a passion thing for Bill. It's his favorite thing other than pizza is ice cream. But the biggest thing was we were doing so many events and going all these places and I'm pulling up or I'm showing up there and an ice cream truck was pulling behind us at every single event. And I'm like, we're already booking with these people. They're already talking to us. They're already working with us. And these ice cream trucks stink. And, they would come up and go, you guys want ice cream? We'll take pizzas if you want to swap. And I'm like, no, thank you. That's how gross they were. Prepackaged and this. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. I don't really, whatever. I think if we got these people on the phone or they're reaching out to book us and they haven't already made their whole plan, and we say, by the way, we have the most unique truck and the best ice cream. Would you like to add that to your package? That makes everybody's life simpler. And it's a no-brainer because we got better experience with the vehicle. You only have to deal with one operational team and you have really great ice cream. That's, to me, seemed like a no-brainer if I'm them. And oh, by the way, if you book two together, we'll give you a slight discount on the ice cream truck. Done. So they're saving money, better experience, great product, one team to work with and pay. They're really seamless. And I think last year we did, I don't know, I put the stat up there. I think we did like 125 events or something like that with ice cream in its first full season.
Yeah.
Those are private bookings. And I think this year we have somewhere between like 50 to 70 weddings that booked the ice cream truck along with our catering. So I guess, we were right. But again, it's one of those things where you said, oh, you got all these things you listed that you said, I can see you have going on. Well, a few of those things have already kind of been put on the back burner to the wayside because they didn't work. So it's like we don't spend a lot of time dwelling on the ones that didn't work out exactly how we thought, but we gave them a shot. And some of it is, okay, it didn't work now, but it doesn't mean that we won't go back to it later. It's just, we learned from it. It wasn't the right timing. We got other stuff that is working. Let's keep pushing that button, that success button on those things we found that worked. And then let's revisit these other ones later because it might not have been a bad idea. It was just bad timing or bad execution on our part. And because we had lessons to learn from something that failed.
At the same time, not every idea is going to work, but without trying, you won't get to where you need to go.
Yeah, we don't spend a lot of time talking about, if we kill something, we kill an idea or put in something that we were working on to rest, we all kind of look at each other like, it feels like a natural end to this. I feel like, should we put this away and let it die? And everyone is kind of, if everyone's kind of like, yeah, I think we should didn't really work out. If they're trying to be nice, but I'm like, done. Like, we don't need to talk about it anymore. I'm not going to lose sleep over it after. The only thing that I lose sleep over is when there's an idea that we didn't try that I thought could work. And if I see it pop up somewhere else, I'm like,
it happens.
That's the only thing that keeps me up at night. Not making a decision and having it be a bad one and go, oh, I wish we didn't do that. But we tried it. So that's more than most people will do.
I agree. Let me know if you have any questions for me.
No, not today.
Is there anything you would like to add?
I think we covered a lot of ground. It's just that we still have aspirations. Like you can see, we've got a nice little cluster there of stores. We'd really like to get a few more around some of the ones that are more isolated, because we've figured out quite a bit about how to create operational efficiencies when you create like more of a territory. And so we are looking more up in the northern area for 1 to 2 more stores, or at least one more store, and then putting trucks that are just based up there. And then going further west or south or wherever. But so we have areas we have our eye very squarely on, and it's going to be based on opportunity and timing, which one gets the resources first to grow. And some of it could be a person, right? Like if we find the right person to join the team that is more rooted in a certain area and we have that going, I'll be like, okay, let's, we're going to lead this charge up here. So, we're definitely growing. And then we're going to get back to a place where we're looking to grow out of state as well again, with operational partners or franchisees out of state. That's the one thing that we learned. It's like, we're not going to have franchisees in our own market. We will help them open up elsewhere so they don't feel like they're always competing with us.
Competing, I guess. Yeah.
There was a lot of that where it was, they felt like, people were obviously coming to us for more than them because they know us and we have our corporate office here and our whole team here. So if they were reaching out to us first for everything, naturally, and there was a lot of back and forth and competitiveness as far as that goes, which was understandable from both sides. And going, okay, we're not going to cannibalize our own franchisees by putting them so close to our other stores, but we're also not going to cut the head off of our own operations and businesses just to help them.
Just because, just help them out.
Also, they have to do the real thing, which is help expand and go other places and go, hey, we're going to give you everything you need to be successful, and you're going to be the guy or the gal in your area, and you're not going to have to worry about us other than for support. You're not going to be fighting with us over customers. They're all going to be yours.
Do you have a commissary kitchen?
So we're building one out right now. It's been a very slow process. We don't have a lot that we need to do that with, but dough is a big one, and a few other things. We use co-packers for things now, like our tomato sauce, so that way we don't have to worry about consistency and variance but it's the same recipe we've always had. So that's nice. We've done that with our dressings as well. So we're probably not going to take that on because it's a lot of responsibility to, number one, to facilitate that and then distribute. So we don't have to do that. And then the dough and catering commissary is going to be opening up sometime this year. So
I got you. And do you work with a GPO, group purchasing organization?
What was that?
Group purchasing organization. Do you work with one?
We kind of do. We have one program that we work with, but they don't cover all of our products. They cover quite a few of them that goes through, through Greco and Cisco, which is like an outside, I think it's called Buyer's Edge. So we work with them, but they don't cover every one of our products. And I don't think anyone ever does.
Can cover. Italian stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So they cover quite a bit of our stuff. But we get most of our products through Greco anyways.
I got you. Okay. So if anyone, these are the store locations. Anyone in the Chicago area or visiting the Chicago area, check them out. Billy Bricks Wood-Fired Pizza, and anybody who wants to book this amazing concept for a catering event.
Look at that truck on the right there. Look at that one. See that?
Oh, no way. Yeah, so this is all glass?
Yeah, so when you're there, you can watch the whole show.
Wow, crazy. These are all custom built, huh?
Yeah. I actually have to pick up my cousin from the airport tonight who's coming in, who builds these for us, because he's coming into town to do some mechanical work on some of the trucks.
Yeah. And your brother is an architect, is that right?
He is. He's a restaurant architect. He works with more budgets like those restaurants you were showing me you worked at. He likes to do those types of ones. Money is no object. His wildest imagination, they'll make come true at what he designs. So he works with people more like that than with our budgets.
The website is billybrickshq.com, and anybody who wants to a truck or do a catering, they can book it from here. Even the ice cream on wheels.
Moo Joe's. That.
You should be super proud. You created these, IP and all that. Did the rebranding so you can do the franchising.
Yeah.
To get the copyright for the trade name.
Some of the perks of being an IP attorney.
IP, yeah. That's amazing. Rick, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a very, very an amazing conversation. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And what you have achieved is remarkable. You're an amazing entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to The Bottom Line. If you found value in today's conversation, make sure you follow, share, and leave a review. Have a question or need a professional's opinion? Then be sure you reach out using the links in the show notes below. New episodes come out every other week, and until then, we will see you next time.